A Sunflower Promise. Chapter 1. A Village at War, 1942. In a peaceful village nestled amongst rolling hills lived a happy young woman named Amelia. Her hair shone like fire, and her eyes sparkled like the summer sky. This village was Elmwood, and laughter used to fill its cobblestone streets. But a dark cloud fell upon Elmwood. A big war was happening far away, and it crept closer to their quiet lives. Strong young men, like Amelia's brother Tom, had to leave their families and go fight. Tears flowed freely as mothers hugged their sons goodbye. The annual village fair, usually a joyous celebration, was now filled with a heavy silence. Even the playful piglets seemed to understand the change. A worried feeling settled in Amelia's stomach. The war, something she only heard about on the big, brown radio, now felt scary and real. With a heavy heart, Amelia wished for peace and for her brother Tom to return home safely. Chapter 2. The Arrival of Prisoners, 1942. One chilly morning, as the leaves on the trees turned golden brown and fell like raindrops, a group of men arrived in Elmwood. They weren't the usual kind of visitors. They spoke a different language, wore strange clothes, and looked lost and scared. The villagers, still jittery about the war, watched them with narrowed eyes and crossed arms. These men were prisoners, soldiers from Germany, the country England was fighting. Among them was a young man named Friedrich. He had kind eyes and a sad smile. He missed his family back in Germany, his warm home, and his mama's delicious apple strudel. He didn't want to be here, fighting in a war he didn't understand. He felt a knot in his stomach as they were led to a big, empty building in the village, the town hall, where they would be staying for a while. It wasn't home, but it would have to do for now. Chapter 3. Seeds of Compassion, 1942 to 1943. Every day, the villagers took turns bringing food to the prisoners at the town hall. Amelia, with her basket overflowing with carrots, potatoes, and plump tomatoes, felt a knot of nervousness in her stomach. These men were the enemy, weren't they? But looking at their faces, pale and drawn, she couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy. One young man, with hair the color of wheat straw and eyes that held a hint of sadness, stood out to Amelia. He spoke very little English, just mumbled greetings and shy smiles. But his kind eyes and gentle demeanor slowly chipped away at Amelia's initial wariness. One afternoon, as Amelia handed him a fresh loaf of bread, she pointed to it and said slowly, "Bread." He seemed to understand, nodding and saying something in his own language that sounded like "danky," which Amelia knew meant "thank you." A tiny smile played on his lips. Over time, their interactions became a daily ritual. Amelia would bring vegetables, and they'd point and say the names back and forth: carrot, potato, tomato. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Sometimes, Friedrich would try out English words he knew, like good or beautiful, pointing to the sky or the flowers growing outside the town hall. Their conversations were simple, filled with gestures and broken phrases. But somehow, through it all, a fragile understanding began to bloom. It was a seed of compassion, planted in the midst of war, a tiny spark of kindness that would slowly grow into something more. Chapter 4. Beyond the Fence, 1943. Weeks turned into months, and the routine in Elmwood settled into a rhythm. The villagers still felt uneasy about the war, but their suspicion towards the prisoners softened a bit. Amelia, especially, felt a connection with Friedrich. Their daily chats, though filled with jumbled words and hand gestures, brought a sense of warmth to her days. One sunny afternoon, Amelia found Friedrich sketching in a small notebook. He was shy about showing it at first, but with a gentle smile, Amelia encouraged him. In the book was a drawing, a single sunflower, its bright face turned towards the sun. Seeing the drawing sparked a memory in Amelia. "Sunflowers," she said, pointing at the picture. Back in her garden, behind the house, a field of sunflowers bloomed tall and proud. Friedrich's eyes widened with longing. He didn't know the English word, but he mumbled something in German that sounded similar. A smile spread across Amelia's face. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way to share a small piece of home with Friedrich. That night, after the moon peeked over the houses, Amelia snuck outside. Her heart thumped with a mix of excitement and nervousness. She tiptoed through the fields until she reached her sunflower garden. Picking a single, golden bloom, Amelia tucked it into her pocket, ready for a secret meeting with Friedrich under the moonlight. Chapter 5. A Secret Meeting, 1943. The moon, big and round like a giant silver coin, cast a gentle glow over Elmwood. Amelia, her heart pounding like a drum solo, snuck out of her house. Tonight was different. Tonight, she wasn't just bringing vegetables. Tonight, she had a secret plan. Tiptoeing through the quiet village, she reached the edge of the field where sunflowers grew tall and proud. Their golden faces, usually turned towards the setting sun, now seemed to peek at Amelia with a knowing glint. Reaching the back of the fence surrounding the town hall, Amelia took a deep breath. This was risky, but the thought of seeing Friedrich's smile made her take a chance. Suddenly, a shadow detached itself from the darkness. It was Friedrich. He looked surprised and a little scared, but when he saw Amelia, a relieved smile spread across his face. They spoke in hushed tones, their voices barely whisper. Amelia pointed at the moon, then made a sleeping gesture, trying to explain it was late. Friedrich understood, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Taking a deep breath, Amelia reached into her pocket and pulled out the sunflower. Its golden petals seemed to glow in the moonlight. Friedrich's eyes widened in delight. He reached out, his fingers brushing against Amelia's as he gently took the flower. In that simple gesture, a silent connection passed between them, a shared secret blooming under the watchful gaze of the moon. They spoke for a little while longer, their words a mix of broken English and shy smiles. It wasn't much, but in that stolen moment, amidst the darkness of war, they found a spark of kindness and a flicker of hope. As the first rays of dawn began to paint the sky, Amelia knew she had to leave. With a final shy wave, she disappeared into the growing light, leaving Friedrich standing alone with the sunflower, a symbol of their secret friendship. Chapter 6. The Language of Love, 1943. Their secret meetings under the cloak of night became a cherished routine for Amelia and Friedrich. The shared danger and hushed voices only made their connection feel stronger. Amelia continued to teach Friedrich English, using simple words and playful gestures. It was slow going, but with each new word learned, their understanding deepened. One evening, as they sat amongst the tall sunflowers in Amelia's garden, thanks to a carefully crafted excuse about needing help weeding, Amelia pointed to a streak of light shooting across the dark sky. "Wish," she whispered, remembering a word she had recently taught him. Friedrich, his eyes sparkling with understanding, closed his eyes and made a silent wish. Curiosity bubbled within Amelia. "What did you wish for?" she asked softly. Friedrich looked at her, his gaze filled with an emotion she couldn't quite name. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn notebook. With a shy smile, he flipped through the pages until he found a specific drawing, a simple house nestled amongst rolling hills, smoke curling peacefully from its chimney. Pointing to the picture, Friedrich spoke a single word in German. Amelia didn't understand, but the image spoke volumes. He missed his home, his family, everything familiar that the war had ripped away. A pang of sympathy shot through Amelia's heart. Taking his hand gently, she pointed to the sky and then back at him. "Frieden," she whispered, the German word for peace, a word that echoed the shared longing in their hearts. Their eyes met, a silent promise exchanged, a wish not just for their own happiness, but for an end to the war and the suffering it caused. From that night on, Frieden became their secret word, a symbol of their shared hope for a brighter future. Even though their meetings were filled with stolen moments and whispered conversations, the language of love blossomed between them, a language that transcended words and spoke straight to the heart. Chapter 7. A Song of Longing, 1943. News from the war arrived in Elmwood like a cold wind, chilling everyone's hearts. Young men from the village were leaving again, their families waving tearful goodbyes. The weight of worry settled heavily on Amelia's shoulders. One gloomy evening, she found Friedrich back at the town hall, his face etched with sadness. He pulled out a small harmonica, an instrument he always carried with him. As Friedrich played a mournful tune, a melody filled with both sadness and a flicker of hope, Amelia felt tears welling up in her eyes. The music seemed to speak for both of them, expressing the pain of separation, the uncertainty of the future, and yet a love that held strong despite the hardship. When the last note faded, a heavy silence hung in the air. Amelia, unable to hold back her emotions any longer, started to hum a simple melody she had learned as a child. Her voice, soft and sweet, intertwined with the lingering notes of Friedrich's harmonica, creating a beautiful, melancholic song. In that shared song, They poured out their longing for peace and a future together. It was a song born out of a war-torn world, but it held a spark of hope, a testament to the enduring power of love and the human spirit's ability to find solace even in the darkest of time. Chapter 8. A Test of Faith, 1943 to 1944. The harsh winter of 1943 gripped Elmwood in its icy claws. Biting winds howled through the village and snow piled high, making even the simplest tasks a struggle. Food became scarce, with villagers forced to ration their meals. The once vibrant sunflowers in Amelia's garden couldn't withstand the harsh conditions, their cheerful faces drooping and turning a sad brown. The war also cast a long shadow over their secret meetings. With everyone focused on surviving the harsh winter, the villagers grew suspicious of Amelia's frequent disappearances. Friedrich, worried about putting Amelia in danger, suggested they stop seeing each other for a while. The thought of being apart was unbearable for Amelia, but she understood his concern. Determined to keep their connection alive, Amelia snuck out one last time under the cover of darkness. Reaching the back of the town hall, her heart hammered in her chest. Would Friedrich be there? Taking a deep breath, she whispered his name softly. A moment later, a shadow emerged from the darkness. Relief washed over Amelia as she saw Friedrich's familiar face. Their goodbye was bittersweet. With a heavy heart, Amelia reached into her pocket and pulled out something small and round. It was the single sunflower seed Friedrich had admired in her drawing. Pressing it into his palm, she whispered, "Bis morgen," a German phrase that meant, "Until tomorrow," though they both knew tomorrow was uncertain. Friedrich's eyes welled up with tears. He understood the silent message, a symbol of hope, a promise to hold on to, even in the bleak winter months. With a final farewell glance, they parted ways, each carrying a piece of the sunflower, a reminder of their love that would see them through the darkness. Chapter 9. A Spark of Hope, 1944. Spring finally arrived in Elmwood, melting away the harsh memories of winter. A gentle breeze carried the sweet scent of thawing earth, and a sense of cautious optimism bloomed in the hearts of the villagers. People emerged from their homes, blinking in the sunlight, eager to rebuild their lives. Amelia, however, couldn't shake off the lingering sadness of winter. The once vibrant field behind her house was still a barren patch of brown, a stark reminder of the harsh winter and the separation from Friedrich. But as she knelt down to clear some debris, a flicker of green caught her eye. Pushing aside the dead leaves, she gasped. A single, determined sunflower sprout was pushing its way through the tough soil. This tiny sprout, reaching for the sun with unwavering hope, filled Amelia's heart with a surge of joy. It was a symbol of resilience, a reminder that life finds a way, even in the most difficult times. It was also a reminder of her promise to Friedrich, a promise she clung to like a lifeline. One sunny afternoon, while weeding her garden, Amelia heard a familiar voice call out her name. Her heart leaped into her throat. Turning around, she saw a figure approaching, his uniform replaced by worn civilian clothes. It was Friedrich. He had been released from the prison camp and assigned to work on a nearby farm. Tears welled up in Amelia's eyes as they rushed towards each other. The joy of their reunion chased away the shadows of loneliness that had haunted them for months. In Friedrich's hands, she saw a small, brown paper bag, carefully tucked away. It wasn't much, but to Amelia, it held the promise of a future brighter than the spring sunshine, a future where their love, like the resilient sunflower, could finally bloom. Chapter 10: A Sunflower Promise Fulfilled, 1944 to 1945. Reunited, Amelia and Friedrich found stolen moments whenever they could. They'd meet under the cloak of darkness, sharing stories of their experiences during the war's separation. Friedrich confessed how the sunflower seed she had given him had become his most prized possession. He carried it close to his heart, a symbol of hope and love that sustained him through the darkest days. The war finally ended in 1945, bringing a wave of relief and celebration to Elmwood. Streets echoed with cheers and laughter as villagers rejoiced in the return of peace. However, the road to normalcy was long. Friedrich faced uncertainty about returning to Germany, a country ravaged by war, and the fate of his family he desperately missed. Amelia, torn between her love for Friedrich and the worry of a future in a war-torn land, struggled with a difficult decision. Would she leave everything she knew behind to be with him? One sunny afternoon, as they stood amidst the blooming sunflowers in Amelia's garden, their golden faces swaying gently in the breeze, Friedrich took her hand. With a shy smile, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, hand-carved wooden sunflower. It was a replica of his earlier drawing, crafted with love and care. "This is for you, Amelia," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "A symbol of my love that will never fade, just like these sunflowers reaching for the sun." Tears welled up in Amelia's eyes. Looking at the sunflower, she saw more than just a carving. It was a promise to overcome any obstacle, a promise to build a future together, just like the sunflower reaching towards the sun. Taking a deep breath, Amelia whispered, "Zusammen," the German word for together, sealing their bond with a promise that transcended war and hardship.